Most people think the global economy is just a bunch of numbers on a screen. Stocks go up, prices go down, currencies move, and life just kinda happens around it. But the truth is much, much deeper than that. The global economy doesn't run by itself. It's pushed, pulled, and shaped by incredibly powerful forces working quietly in the background. Forces that decide how money flows, which countries rise, which ones collapse, and how your everyday life becomes more expensive, or suddenly, a little more affordable. Today, we're pulling back the curtain and breaking down those hidden forces. First up, the biggest invisible power of them all, central banks. We're talking about institutions like the Federal Reserve in the US, the European Central Bank, and the Bank of Japan. These are the silent architects of money. They decide how much money even exists in the first place, how expensive your loans are, how freely banks can lend, and ultimately, how fast an entire economy grows. A tiny change in an interest rate, something that sounds so abstract, can ripple out to affect mortgages, car prices, business loans, and even unemployment rates. Here's the crazy part. You don't vote for them. You don't choose their leaders. Yet, they determine the value of every single dollar you earn and save. This is, without a doubt, one of the most powerful hidden forces shaping our world. Next, let's talk about the mega corporations that quietly control entire markets. Think about global giants like Apple, Amazon, Google, Exxon, and Walmart. These companies don't just sell products. They control vast supply chains, cutting-edge technology, global logistics, and unimaginable amounts of data. Their influence over governance is often far greater than most people realize. When a company becomes this massive, it gains the power to set prices across an industry, squeeze out smaller competitors, dictate wages for millions of workers, and shape the future of entire sectors. Because so few companies now dominate so many different industries, their internal decisions don't just affect their own profits, they affect the economic health of entire countries. And that brings us to the invisible chain that binds the whole system together, debt. This is something most people don't really think about, but debt is the engine of the modern global economy. Governments owe trillions. Households owe trillions. Corporations owe trillions. It's the fuel that keeps the system running, but it's also what keeps everyone trapped. If interest rates rise just a little, nations struggle to pay back their loans. If credit suddenly gets tight, businesses can't borrow to expand and start to fail. If households can't get loans for cars or homes, spending grinds to a halt. Debt gives incredible, almost absolute power to the lenders, the big banks, and the bond markets. They can exert pressure over entire countries, forcing them to make difficult choices. This is exactly why so many economic crises, time and time again, start with one single thing: too much debt. Now, let's follow the trail of a product you own. Your phone, for instance. It might have parts sourced from more than a dozen different countries. Your t-shirt might be stitched in one nation, dyed in another, and shipped from a port in a third. This intricate global web is what we call the supply chain, and it is incredibly fragile. A factory shutdown in Asia can make prices for electronics soar in America. A shipping delay in a single canal can empty supermarket shelves in Europe. A political conflict in one region can raise the cost of oil for the entire world. This reveals a simple truth. Whoever controls the key points in the supply chains controls global prices. This is another hidden force, quietly but powerfully shaping the cost of everything you buy. But who makes the rules for all this global activity? That's where international organizations come in. We're talking about institutions like the IMF, the World Bank, and the World Trade Organization. Along with powerful alliances like the G20, these groups don't just sit around and talk. They make the critical decisions that govern global trade. They set the rules for how countries can borrow money and what reforms those nations must make to receive financial help. A single loan from the IMF can force a country to completely change its internal policies, its tax rates, its public spending, its social programs. Most people never see these decisions being made, but millions feel the real-world impact every single day. Here's a hidden force that most people completely underestimate: the power of the US dollar. It's not just America's money. It is the world's money. It's what's known as the global reserve currency. Around the world, countries buy and sell essential commodities like oil, gold, and wheat almost exclusively in dollars. This gives the United States an enormous and unique economic power. When the dollar strengthens or weakens, it sends shockwaves across the globe. It affects the price of international trade, the burden of foreign debt, the rate of inflation in developing nations, and the flow of investment capital across borders. In many ways, controlling the world's main currency means you have your hand on the world's financial pulse. But the hidden forces of today aren't just banks and governments anymore. We are entering a new age, driven by technology, data, and artificial intelligence. These are the new forces working behind the scenes. We have algorithms that predict market movements faster than any human ever could. We have AI models that optimize complex supply chains in real time. These systems influence your consumer behavior, decide your creditworthiness, and manage massive investment portfolios automatically. The tech giants who control this data and these algorithms now influence economies just as much as governments do. And as the world becomes more and more digital, the power of these new forces will only continue to grow. So, you might be listening to all of this and thinking, okay, that's interesting, but it all sounds so big and far away from my personal life. But it's not. These hidden forces directly decide why your groceries get more expensive, why your rent keeps rising, and why it sometimes feels like wages can't keep up. They are the reason your savings might lose value over time, or why your investment portfolio suddenly goes up or down. Your financial life is directly tied to decisions made by institutions you'll never meet, by algorithms you can't see, and by systems that feel totally out of your control. So what's the big picture here? Why does understanding all this even matter? The global economy feels huge and impossibly complicated, and in many ways, it is big. But you don't need to become a professional economist to navigate it. You just need to understand one key thing. The world is not random. It is shaped by deliberate forces: central banks, mega corporations, debt markets, fragile supply chains, international rulemakers, powerful currencies, and now, technology. Once you start to see how these forces work, you begin to understand why the world moves the way it does. And more importantly, you learn how to better protect your own financial future. Because while the global economy may be steered by hidden forces, the choices you make every day can still shape the course of your own life. Thanks for watching. If you found this breakdown helpful, make sure to hit that subscribe button for more content that decodes the world around us. See you in the next video.